Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Crithalla podcast. I am your host, Ol Skipflack here, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host here. We'll start with Stavi, SYNOPSIS. What's up, brother? How are you?
Dan!
Hello!
We made it, dude.
Dude, we're here.
We're here. What's going on?
What's up,
people?
Dude?
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
Yeah, what's going on?
It's going. It's going.
That's good.
Yeah, dude.
That's amazing.
I know.
Wow.
Also, I brought a guest.
Did you?
I did.
Could that possibly be our other co-host?
Oh, yeah. Mike, come in here.
Mike, get in here.
Hey, everybody. I've been holding that in for a while. But, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
What the hell? You sound fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, allergies, sometimes they get the better of you. I just got to clear my throat. I don't know why I've been waiting on it, but...
Wow. Mike has a new mic all of a sudden? What the heck?
Wow, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, getting more and more professional every day.
Yeah, man. Crithalla podcast. We're just upping up our quality every chance we can get, baby. Let's go.
Hashtag no more tin cans. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Tin can on a string. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cosmic Key, Mike, welcome, dude.
What's up, dude?
Thank you.
Yeah, so Dan, what are we doing here? What is this place? What's going on?
So, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Crithalla podcast, and welcome to the very first episode of Talking Tabletop. Woo! Let's go. Woo!
Woo!
Yeah, baby. So, we talked about this on the last podcast, and I also posted it on our social media. But if you don't know what Talking Tabletop is, first of all, welcome to the inaugural episode. On this show, what we do is we run it in seasons. There's going to be 3 episodes per season. Each one of us, Mike, Stavi, and myself, we are going to pick a tabletop role-playing game, and each one of us are going to discuss it, review it in a way, kind of pitch it to the other two, and just kind of go over the general basics of the game. And at the end of the season, after the 3 episodes are over, we are going to be posting up a poll on our social media, and we're going to leave it up to you guys. Out of the 3 games that we picked, which one are you most interested in? And whichever game wins, we are going to play a one-shot of that system.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, dude.
I'm really excited for this new idea, like having a pretty much one-stop shop to sort of spread the word of other systems that exist in the entire tabletop ecosystem for other people to like look into and play with their friends. That isn't primarily just like a D20 system. Like we have seen systems that use like D5s and D17s and like and like the most obscure random stuff, and it just looks and sounds really cool. Plus the artwork in some of these books is ridiculous.
Yeah, man, seriously. So yeah, we're gonna start off. We're gonna start with Mike today.
What?
He has a Mike. Oh,
yeah.
Are you not ready?
All right. No, well, just keep talking.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Just flip through like a bunch of your books that are in the background. I'm sure you'll figure it out. And while you do that, we also have a YouTube page for the Crithalla podcast. And normally on our other show, DMs Discuss, we always pick a specific setting for our topic that we speak about. But for Talking Tabletop, we just have one, and it's the game room. We are in the game room today. It's filled with board games, filled with cards, filled with so many things for us to choose from. So here we are in the game room. All right, Mike, did you finish up flipping through books? You think you got one?
Yeah, I think I got a good one, yeah.
All right, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, show the rest of the class.
All right. I hold it up. This is what I brought to show and tell today.
Ooh.
It is very near and dear to me. Being a fan of comic books, majority of my life. It's called Mutants and Masterminds.
Oh.
Ooh, M&M's.
Yeah, M&M. I love that rapper. All right.
What?
They had a partnership with DC Comics for a while, so they released all their stuff, but under DC. So it was called DC Adventures. And I mean, you can get just Mutants and Masterminds. They have their own setting, but I got the DC Adventures ones because I'm a huge DC fan, and it has all the characters statted out and things like that. The same rules and everything, but all the NPCs are the characters from the comics.
Pretty cool. All right, cool. So Mutants and Masterminds. Let's get into it. Let's start off with like a brief synopsis of the game. What do you got?
The game itself is a very powerful system, and like I said, they have a generic version, plus they have their setting, plus the DC one. It's a point buy system. You don't really roll your character when you make it, and it's basically just trying to simulate battles and situations from comic books. I think it does it very well. I've actually played multiple different other comic book specific games, and they were either way too powerful or just not powerful enough. It never felt right. And I've actually been running this since the early 2000s, like 2003, 2004.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and this is the only one that's actually felt like you could actually make what you want to make when you want to make it. And you really can't, there's really nothing you can't do. The system is that flexible.
So it's like, Champions Online or like DC Universe Online, but just like as a tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
And,
I like that.
Since it's tabletop, there's no like invisible walls or barriers or anything to keep you from doing the things you want to do. If you want to fly to space, fly to space. If you have that power, you can.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I feel like superheroes go really well with a tabletop role-playing game.
Oh yeah, if there was ever a medium to create like the ultimate superhero, laser vision, super speed, flight, being able to breathe in space, being basically an actual god character, superheroes is where it's at, and tabletop RPGs is definitely the medium.
Yeah, definitely.
And also the system is flexible enough and generic enough that I've actually used it for other things. I've used it to basically represent like a Star Wars game or Mass Effect. I've used it for fantasy before. It's a very good system just at its base, not just for superheroes, even though that's what it's tailored for. You kind of have to finagle the power level a bit for other things. But once you do that, it's a very good system for just pretty much anything you want to use it for.
Interesting.
Sick. So explain how like mechanically the system functions, right? Because I personally am a whore for mechanics when it comes to tabletop RPGs. I like the crunchiness. It's probably why I'm so obsessed with like old school D&D tabletop.
Yeah.
So like crunchy wise, mechanical, like how does character creation work? Like how are numbers figured? How does that operate?
Well, if you like crunch, you better watch your teeth, because this is a very, especially for when you make your abilities. Luckily, the way my brain works, I excel at it, but the way you make your abilities, it's very crunchy.
Oh boy.
You can dictate every aspect of your power. So, I'll get to the power in a sec. When you start, the game master has to decide what the power level of the game is. Because in comic books, there's different power levels. Batman is different than Superman. Green Lantern is different than Daredevil. They all have different power levels.
Yeah.
And the power levels basically mean that's how many points you get to start to make your character. And there's like a min-max cap for how powerful your abilities can be depending on the power level. I usually start everyone with 150 points, which is like power level 10. So right in the smack dab in the middle. And you don't roll anything when you make your guy. There's eight stats. Strength, stamina, agility, dexterity, fighting, intellect, awareness, and presence. And you spend your points on those to raise them as high as you want. You could even give yourself negatives to give yourself more points if you feel like it. So there's a back and forth that way. And then there's defense stats, which are dodge, parry, fortitude, toughness, and will. You spend points to raise or lower those. And we're not even getting to skills yet, which you buy ranks in those with those points. Now, 150 points seems like a lot, but you're using it for everything.
Okay.
So you really have to think about the type of character you want to make.
Sure. I've played computer role-playing games where, like, instead of just giving you a specific amount of ability score points to put into, like, strength, dexterity, intelligence, whatever, they give you, like, character points. Think of, like, Madden football is actually a really weird but accurate example of, like, you know, it'll be like your passing, your catching, your ability to juke, your everything, and your strength. All of your stats and everything is combined into just one point pool resource that you have to use.
Yes, so you have to think. Basically, it's to represent if you're naturally good at something, and then basically there's a lot of abilities like powers that mimic heightened versions of those abilities, but it just depends on if you naturally are like that or you get it from an ability, because if it's an ability can be taken away. So
really,
yeah, so like there's an ability called nullify, and you can nullify other people's abilities. So sort of like how Rogue in Marvel Comics can, like, by touching them, like skin to skin contact, take their powers, or things of that nature. So, but if it's your abilities, like, you can't, like, all of us, unless you break Batman's back, you're not going to make him less dexterous. Right. Like, you can't take away the fact that, you know, he runs drills 7 times a day.
Yeah,
so, right. but if he got his power, like the Flash gets his power from the Speed Force, that's like an external source. So you can cut him off from that. So he loses that power.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
That's
and then sick.
Once you get to the powers, you basically, everything in the game has extras and flaws. Even your abilities. So you could say, like, you're fast, but you're not, like, a long distance runner. And that would be a flaw. And that would make your, like, dex or speed easier to buy because you're putting a limit on it.
Okay.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, like the opposite of a dwarf.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Exactly. Good at long distance, not good in
Yeah.
Not good in long distance, good in short distance.
If you want, I can give you guys an example of the abilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll use one of my favorites because I always like telekinesis and things of that nature. And it's good for, you know, I've used this also to mimic Avatar, The Last Airbender stuff, the different bending styles. That was way before there was actually an Avatar game. Because it's been a long time coming for that. So there's an ability called Move Objects. And it's basically, you can move an object at a distance without touching it. That's pretty much the thing of it. Now, some of the extras for that are damaging, which would raise the cost to 2 points per rank instead of 1 per rank. And it means you could damage people with your move object. So you could just crush them with telekinesis.
Oh, I see. So it's like a basic ability, but if you wanted to upgrade it, it would cost more, but it does more stuff. I see. That's a pretty cool aspect.
Yeah, now the counter of that is flaws. So for move objects, you could say limited material. So you could say you could only move with your mind plants or wood or plaster or water or fire. And that makes it cheaper. It costs 1 less per rank. It can never be 0 per rank. But in the case of, say, if you did an extra and made it 2 points per rank, the flaw would now make it go back to 1 per rank.
Wow. That's really cool. So essentially, how many actually like abilities and powers are there in the game?
Oh, there's basically, it covers everything that you see in comics or anything really, any like fantasy. There's a good maybe almost 100 really.
Wow. Okay, so between that, like having over 100 plus the customization of each one, you literally can make the superhero of your dreams, essentially.
A prime example is a character I've played since like I've actually played this character in other superhero systems, but he's only ever felt right in this one, is an electrical-based character I have called Bolt. And the way Bolt flies is he always was supposed to turn into a bolt of electricity and zip through the air, but there was never rules for that in anything else. But in this, I was able to take fly, link the intangibility ability to fly, limit it that's the only way I can fly, and I was able to make it where I can turn into an intangible bolt of electricity and fly through the air.
That's nuts.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and I was even able to add that I could use that as an attack and sort of turn into a bolt of electricity and body ram someone, electrocute them, and go through them. And you could do all of this if you manage your points properly at character creation.
Character creation in this game is extremely important.
Yes. And we're not even...
So,
go ahead.
No, so I'm reading into some of the stuff here for like the basics regarding the game. And one thing that stands out to me is barriers that characters have to overcome regarding like backgrounds or just like their origins.
Mm-hmm.
And how it like ties into not only their abilities in the game when dice start rolling, but also like in roleplay aspects. And I see that Mutants and Masterminds, at least the 3rd edition, has something called complications.
Oh, yes. Complications are literally the best.
So could you talk more about that? Because that seems pretty interesting to me.
I would love to. Complications are ways for you to, A, roleplay your character, and give you a benefit for role-playing your character. If a complication... I'm going to use complicate a lot in this sentence, but it's the only way to say it. If a complication actively complicates your character's life, and you overcome that and roleplay towards that, you get in the game what's known as a hero point. And there's no limit to how many hero points you can get. They stack, and you basically spend those to help you when you play the game. You could like tweak a scene, you could give yourself a plus, you could give yourself an alternate effect to a power just for one time to see if you like it. And then if you wind up liking it, like you can make the power later when you get points, when you go up in levels. Because you do get more points as you level.
Okay.
But complications could be anything from secret identity, or you have a secret in your past, you're afraid of tarantulas, you don't like enclosed spaces, you know, never graduated high school, like anything that would complicate your life. Like Spider-Man has a lot of them.
Yeah, Spider-Man's got trauma.
Yeah, Spider-Man's got trauma. Like any character you could think of has complication. That's why I love this aspect. And it also works really well for other genres too. It's not just like personality traits or flaws like from like 5th edition, but if you make sort of like a knight he watched his family killed by like a dragon, that would be a complication. Like your complication could be like basically predisposed to help families in need. So whenever you see a family being whatever, even though you have to do something more important, you would stop and try to help them, and because it's complicating your life.
Yeah, so overcoming that complication will give you a hero point.
Yeah. And you also get hero points for going above and beyond, but yeah, that's pretty much primarily how you get them.
And the hero points, they do what exactly?
Oh, they can let you you could spend it, and in that round use an alternate effect of a power. So say like you built the move objects water and you spent 20 points into that. You spend the hero point, you could alternate effect off of move water and say, now I'm going to freeze it for this round. And you get 20 points to make a freeze affliction.
Oh, so you actually get to use the hero point to just change your ability.
For that round. And then if you like that, when you go up levels and you get those 20 points, you could then make that power. It's actually like a way to like spitball different power combinations and different power increases. Like instead of actually spending your stuff when you go up, you'd work it out during the game.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool because, like, especially if you're a fan of X-Men, because X-Men does a really good job of, like, kind of presenting to the forefront, like, this weird unknown of mutant abilities and how they are able to be mutated over time. especially in like Uncanny X-Men, there's like a lot of talk of people's abilities or heroes, mutants' abilities being able to evolve over time. That like they'll maybe like what you're saying, they'll be able to start off by moving objects water, and then they'll be able to like freeze it and then use it as like icicle daggers and like shoot icicle daggers at people.
Yeah.
Like you can make your own homemade weapons out of the things around you, like, or earth bending, for example. You could, take up chunks of earth and then, turn them into like, I don't know, shapes of small dice or like or something like that. Like you could turn them into objects and then whip them at people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool that your character can evolve over time with their abilities.
And story-wise, you could sort of be like, if you're an earthbender, every game or so, because you're working your way towards it story-wise, you could just spend a hero point if you have it, and you could move metal or manipulate metal and be like, I'm starting to learn how to do that. And then once you get the points via playing, you take a permanent alternate effect of move earth, where now you can manipulate metal. So
that's cool.
It's built into the game to do that.
I love that. That means, like, especially if you're playing with a really creative group of players, you can have potentially limitless different superhero ability combinations and like evolutions and stuff.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like role playing, that would be a lot of fun.
You can literally make the superhero of your dreams. Like literally.
Yeah, no one will be the same.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, no one will be the same.
You know how cool that would be to have like a PvP group though? Like, as a GM, imagine you have a group of people who are like the hero characters. They're the good. They're the face. And then you have another group who are like evil characters. And then you have a heroes versus villains fight off where you get the two parties together at the tabletop.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that'd be tight.
How sick would that be, dude?
That'd be so cool.
That would be like Avengers, like Endgame kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So speaking of like absolute epic battles, how exactly does combat work in this game? Is it just turn-based? Is it round-based? How exactly does it work?
It's actually very simple. The only dice or die you need is 1d20.
Really?
Because any ability that would do damage does damage based on your rank. So say if you have like 5 ranks in move objects and you take damaging, whenever you damage someone with that, it's 5. And
okay.
I see.
The damage stuff is a little I don't want to say wonky because it makes sense when you think about it, but it takes a little getting used to because you have a toughness stat. The toughness is how you can take damage. So basically, people do damage to you, you make a toughness roll, and the difference is how much damage you take. And there's no hit points, but there is like a chart. So you can knock someone out in one hit. If you do enough damage and they roll poorly enough on toughness. They just go straight from full to incapacitated if you just annihilate them.
Wow. And that goes vice versa too?
Yeah. Otherwise, the more... I mean, it can get out of hand. It's called the death spiral, where if you just chip at them, they get -1 to toughness. So eventually, they're going to fail by a lot, but it's almost like you're beating the living crap out of them, so it kind of makes sense comic book-wise. Like, there's been comics where, like, a whole issue is just the villain beating the crap out of the hero. Like, throwing him through buildings and pummeling him. But everything is a contested roll. If you attack someone at ranged, they get to roll their dodge to try to beat your attack roll. And if they do, you miss. So it's an active defense. If someone attacks you in melee, you get to roll your parry. And if you make it, they miss.
So it's not just straight up matching a DC or an AC or
anything
like that.
It's always it's in comic book fashion. It's always a conflict.
That's cool.
It's active
really
toughness.
cool.
It's actual resistance. It's all you don't just take a hit. You get to. It's also because you could tweak your like I've made a character before that used precognition to make himself harder to hit in combat. So I had an ability that raised my parry and dodge, just my parry and dodge. I wasn't faster. I just saw the hit coming. So it gave me bonuses to parry and dodge to block melee stuff or like ranged attacks because I saw the attack like a minute earlier.
That's cool.
At this point, we should probably throw up a picture, maybe right now, or maybe even a little bit earlier, of what a character sheet looks like for Mutants and Masterminds.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because one of the things that people are going to see, one of the first things people are going to see is like how they're going to manage their character and their resources. For sure. And I have seen some tabletop games where the character sheet is just off the wall difficult to really comprehend in just one glance.
Oh yeah.
And I'm looking at a bunch of different variables of the character sheet for monsters or mutants and masterminds, and it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you write a lot
that I'm seeing.
Like, because you write the skills you have. There's no list of skills. You write because you don't take every skill. If you don't put the points into it, you don't have it.
Gotcha.
Sure. And it's not like there's a spell list that you can learn either, right? It's not like with D&D or anything where they have like druid spells and wizard spells and stuff. It's just generic hero
because basically your spells can be anything. You make spells the same way you make powers. They're just under the magical descriptor. Yeah. Right. The abilities are basically the powers. And like powers, devices. You make your equipment that way as well. Equipment, either mundane or Iron Man or Captain America's shield. It all is based on the abilities. The 80, 90 abilities. Everything. They basically give you the tools to make the game. Like the stuff that we don't get, like say like in D&D, they do that stuff off screen and say this is a spell. They just tell you how to make a spell. And then you can make it yourself. If you want your fireball to split, like if you just want fireball, you could do all these different alternate effects of fireball. You can make it split, turn it into a whip, make it a bird that flies and hits a building. Like you do whatever you want it to do.
That's really cool. I like that level of customization. Like
I'm a big fan of that.
That's
too.
really cool. Yeah.
I'm also a fan of this artwork.
Yeah, the artwork's really cool.
We did a fantasy version of this. A friend of mine wanted to be, I don't know if anyone ever played Okami.
I have not.
It's a video game where you're basically like I forgot the name of the character, but you're like a mythical like Japanese wolf that basically is powers.
Oh yeah.
It's like a nature
and you
spirit.
Like paint the planet with flowers.
Yeah, and he wanted to be that in a fantasy, but you can't really make that in anything else. You would just be a wolf druid. It's just not the same. You don't feel like how you're supposed to feel, but in this, he made it. This was also the game that I told you guys about in an earlier podcast, where I made a character who was a magic item because he was trying to steal a philosopher's stone, and he was able to do anything, but he had to make a rhyme for it.
Oh yeah.
I made it using this.
That's so cool.
And what I really like, there's one table in it that covers. It's called the measurements table, and it covers mass, time, distance, and volume. And it goes from like -5 rank to 30 plus rank, and it shows you how things increase. So like at 0 rank, you could lift 50 pounds. At 10 rank, you could lift 25 tons. At 20 rank, 25 kilotons. Like, They list it. So you know that when you can lift a building, how fast you can go per round. Like 2 million miles, like how time is, like you punched someone 6 years ago, like, you know what I mean? They list everything for superhero stuff, for really powerful things. That's
really cool. This game sounds sick. I'm ready to play it now.
Honestly, yeah. Like I'm even looking at the some of the stuff on Drive-Thru-RPG, like the Game Master's Guide. First off, the artwork where it just says evil, like E.V.I.L, and it's like the Legion of Doom, and the dude in the back looks like Dr. Doom. I'm a huge fan of.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I'm noticing that in the artwork for this in particular, they have like a spread where it's the same characters across 3 different eras. Like one is like Victorian England, one is like World War II, kind of 1940s USA, and then the other one is like a dystopian future with like blown up buildings and stuff. So is there an official setting?
They do have their own official setting. It's basically, I think it's Emerald City. It like takes place in Seattle, and they have their own group of sort of like heroes. but they have a lot of source books about if you want to run a superhero game cosmically. So like Green Lantern, Silver Surfer, Galactus, Thanos. They have a pulp one. They have one, the Silver Age of comics, where it was, where the term like 4-color comics came from, where they only ever had 4 colors. That's why most people were green and purple back then. They also have something called the power profiles, which is really good, where they make powers for you. Just in case you can't do the like minutia of it, they go like, oh, this is pretty much 50 or 60 different ice powers. And like they were releasing that as like PDFs that you would buy like for $1 or so, but then they released it all in one book. If you want to buy it all in one book, like they really listen to their audience. And if people are like, oh, we don't feel like making powers ourselves, can we have a book of powers? And they're like, sure. Even though it's more fun personally making the powers yourself.
But that would be very useful for quick character creation, though. Like, if you wanted to get a bunch of NPCs on the table really quickly, you could randomly just roll for powers.
Yeah.
Especially if you wanted to do a quick setup like what we may do if the community votes for this game.
Exactly.
So that could be really useful for us.
What's good is that they have PL level 10 archetypes in the book. So,
okay.
Already generated and made. The powers, you just have to do the complications because that's a role-playing aspect. They have everything made, 150 points. They bought everything like battle suit, so Iron Man, a construct, you're like a living like item. Crime fighter, Batman, energy controller would be like Cyclops, a gadgeteer, like Ant-Man, martial artist, mimic, mystic, Paragon, powerhouse, psionic, speedster. Like they have a lot. So if people just want to be like, hey, I want to be Batman, be like, okay, copy down crime fighter, that's what you are. They get a grapple gun, a costume, flashbang, smoke pellets, sleep gas pellets, boomerangs to throw. It's basically Batman.
I would have so much fun like role playing as a superhero.
Dude, me too.
Me too. I grew up on that shit, man. Like I have an entire storage unit just filled with like old comics from the 80s and the 90s. A lot of like Batman and Robin and like Kingdom Come and stuff like that. And like I don't know, I never knew that I wanted to, but like I feel like I've always wanted to play a superhero role playing game.
And all of a sudden it makes more sense than ever. Like I played that. What was the one MMO? What the hell is it called? The DC one.
DC Universe?
Yeah, I played it. And I played it a little bit, and I never really like got into it because like as much as like, oh yeah, you can make your own superhero, it was pretty like linear.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, it's like, you have a couple of options and that's pretty much it. This game, you literally can make whatever you want. Like, I would absolutely make Batman, like some type of Batman where I can just literally be like, I'm Batman, like all of it, like the entire session, all the time. Like,
or make like a Watchmen character like Rorschach.
Oh yeah, dude.
Or something like that, like a vigilante kind of like anti-hero Deadpool kind of, bad guy, good guy kind of thing. Kind of like, what's his name from X-Men? Gambit is sort of that.
He was my favorite.
And I loved Gambit.
I loved Gambit.
Gambit was my favorite.
The best part is with the complications, they're like malleable. So say like you make a character and then you get some rivalry with a villain that I make, and he winds up like taking like your Aunt May hostage or something, but you didn't know this character existed until you started playing. You can then take complication, this person, as your nemesis. And now that person's your nemesis, that leaves it open for me to complicate your life with that character.
That is so cool.
I like that a lot.
I love that.
It gives me like He-Man vibes, or Skeletor pops out of nowhere. It's like, He-Man.
Funny,
it's like this super villain.
Basically, funny you bring up He-Man because I love the system so much, and I'm a huge He-Man fan. That's why I'm like my name's Cosmic Key. It's from the live action He-Man movie from the 80s. Yeah. I actually converted all the He-Man hero masters and evil villains using this system.
Really?
Just for myself. I'll show you guys next time. Like I gave them their weapons, their complications. I wrote their backgrounds because I know it all by heart. And I just did it for myself.
I feel like it just makes sense too. Like a He-Man, of course you can make into a superhero. Like that.
Yeah,
just makes
it
sense.
is it's a fantasy superhero story.
Yeah, exactly.
You have heroes and villains, dude. It's sword and sorcery with superpowers.
Yeah, He-Man's like almost every genre. It's fantasy, superheroes, and sci-fi.
I feel like the more that we actually talk about this, I think you can actually make any character from any show, like anything. You can make anything with this system, and I think that's what's probably the most interesting part about like using these abilities and all this stuff, and completely customizing it to your own will. Is like you can make any character you want. Like you could pull any character from the 80s of like some crazy, like what's that crazy, like oh man, I can't think of the name. The shark people. Do you remember the shark people?
Street Sharks?
Street Sharks?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, or
You can literally
Mice
just
from
make
Mars.
them. Yeah.
Dude, Street Sharks was the shit. I had the toys for that back in the 90s.
So did I.
They were awesome. Like Hammerhead was my favorite, dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. You can make anything.
You can make Street
That's what's
Sharks,
cool about this system.
Battletoads, SWAT cats. I'll go through more.
Yeah.
Also, one big trope in superhero are like alternate universes, right? So, like, you know how Spider-Man, there's like a million different Spider-Men, you know, Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah.
You know, like future Spider-Man, where it's like Spider-Man 30 or
2099
something, 38, 2099. Yeah, so like you can have like your superhero and then have like I'm thinking from a DM's perspective, but like you could have like a conjunction of like different universes like merging together because of some like plot from like a super villain trying to bring all the villains from all the universes together.
Yeah,
and then you fight alongside like the alternate universe version of your characters.
Oh my god.
Which would be really fucking cool to see. Yeah.
That would be.
I actually did something similar. I copied the group's sheets, renamed them, and basically they were evil versions of their characters from a different Earth.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Yeah, and then
all right, I'm on board for this game, just saying.
Yeah, me too.
just to show you like what you can do. I had a villain early on. His name was Sketch. And he was a failed comic book artist, and someone did steal his work. So he developed the ability via, I think he found like a magical sketchbook. It was very comic booky. But he was able to, when he sketched his characters in it, they would come to life.
Oh my god.
So he used them to basically kill the person who stole his stuff. And no matter how often the group destroyed them, until they found Sketch, which took them like a year and a half, because he doesn't have to be around, they just would kill his creations. And they were like, why is this guy keep showing up? It's because he keeps drawing them.
Wow.
That is such a cool concept. It's like if they took Jack Kirby and made him a superhero or a supervillain.
Exactly.
You know, because all of his work was pretty much stolen and appropriated by people are going to hate me for this, but like that's kind of what happened with Stan Lee. Because he distanced himself from Jack Kirby after a certain point, and a lot of those creations were Jack Kirby's in the beginning. Right. So like you take him, you give him Doodle Bob's pencil, and then you create this megalomaniac like supervillain who just creates all of these villains that just keep coming. Like they just keep showing up, like these black and white sketches of like these mangled creatures. Like, oh, that's so cool.
I love it.
I made this other villain. Well, she was like a villain good guy. Her name was Figment, and she could turn into mist. But I gave her a power that's uncontrollable and permanent, that it forces people to forget about her when she's away from them for more than 10 minutes. So she's literally a figment of their memory.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was able to make that power. And you could actually make it where there's no save involved. It costs a lot, but since it's an NPC, I'm not, beholden to that. It costs a lot, so basically, once she was away, people just didn't remember her.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. Well, all right. I mean, this is genuinely one of the most interesting systems that I've never heard of.
Yeah, seriously. That's a great first. Man, that's going to be hard to beat. Stabby, we got some competition.
we really do. Dude, listen, Green Ronin, okay, the developers and publishers of Mutants and Masterminds, I mean, they do a lot of other stuff. They have another a rule system called the Age system, which is the what is it called? It's AGE. It stands for something. It's Action Game Engine or something like that. And they have like one for like modern and fantasy. And they do so many different game systems and game types, and they all look really cool. But Mutants and Masterminds, I haven't heard of until you mentioned it, Mike. And like, this is up there. This would be genuinely something really fun, because if you have that player in your group, speaking from a DM,
yeah,
if you have that player in your group who loves to power level, who like, he's like that min-maxer, power gamer, this is the system to let them go nuts in, because there are systems in place to block that power gaming no matter how hard they try to do it.
Right.
Other systems let it run rampant because there's no hard barrier to prevent them from breaking through that barrier of like, now I'm untouchable. Unless you fudge dice rolls and be like, well, your character died because a planet crashed into them. Like, that's the only way you're dying.
Yeah, right.
In this, though, you could genuinely have a planet-crushing supervillain like Galactus, who, your character sees Galactus, and now they're like, oh shit, my attempt at me being a god is now being hard countered by this actual cosmic deity.
Yeah.
And that could be a lot of fun.
And one of my favorite things is that you can have high-powered stuff, like galactic level stuff, or since it all is based on the amount of points I decide as a DM or a GM to give you guys to start, it could be a noir, just Rorschach level people. You know what I mean? Just no powers, they're just good detectives, and they have like a grappling hook. Or it could be fly through space on like a silver surfboard. And it could be anything in the middle. It could be fantasy. It could be sci-fi. It can be anything. You just have to put a little bit of work into statting stuff. And it could be any power level. And a lot of games can't do that. The power level's like built into the system. Like once you get this spell, you're blowing crap up. I could just say, you can never get that spell. And even if you get that spell, it's not as powerful as you think it is, because I'm doing a lower power level game. So your fireball only does 4 instead of doing like 15. You know what I mean?
And I hate coming back to this point that I keep making it, but like it literally is like probably one of the most customizable systems I think personally I have ever seen. Like you can do between settings and villains and superheroes and just straight up encounters. Like there's so much like customizing just goes into it. Like what a cool system.
I would genuinely like to see, and maybe we could do this on our YouTube channel, which guys, again, if you haven't checked this out, go on YouTube, take a look at the Crithalla YouTube channel. Yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff on there and a lot of cool other things coming down the pipeline, but we'll talk about that at the end of the episode here today. It would be cool to do just like a brief, maybe 20-minute, 30-minute, however long it takes to go through a typical character creation of these systems, so that way people can also see like the process it takes to make these characters.
That would be really cool. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. It's
try to get whoever's like talking about the game to maybe go through like a character customization or something like that. That'd be really cool.
Very brief. Brief. It's not going to be like, a year-long campaign character creation. It could just be like a very simple, like, here's a basic character. Yeah. And this is the process of going through it and stuff like that. So I think that would be a cool thing to add to these videos as sort of like a companion video. So that way by the end of our season, when you guys vote on what system you would like to see us do a one-shot of, at least you have some more further knowledge of like how character creation works.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I feel like that's a barrier of entry for a lot of people. So many people are used to doing Dungeons and Dragons character generation, which now with like digital media and assets makes it as easy as like clicking 6 times and you have a generated character.
Exactly.
There is no digital media for Mutants and Masterminds as far as I'm aware, so it's still very much pen and paper, rolling dice, and like, or in this case, point buy system. of generating a character, and I think that would be kind of cool to see personally.
It would be. Damn, Mike. Great first talking tabletop, man. Me and Stavi got some competition. But
yeah, we're gonna have to really step up our game, Dan.
Yeah, I have a game in mind that I hope a lot of people will enjoy. I know I'm gonna enjoy talking about it, and I'm sure you have a plethora of games behind you.
Who,
just
me?
On your book, yeah, you with your bookshelf of stuff.
Yeah, I have an entire bookshelf full of like other systems.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the very first episode of Talking Tabletop with Mutants and Masterminds.
Yeah, give it a look, everybody.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, so before we head out, I just want to point out, if you guys are interested in checking out Mutants and Masterminds, you can go to greenroninstore.com and buy it directly from the publishers themselves. The rule books and the handbook is like $30 for the basic one, and then they have like a deluxe print version of it, which is like $40. Still cheaper than other systems,
Definitely.
and probably higher quality print too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can check it out there. They also have a drive-through RPG. They even have a Roll20 store. So if you're doing a virtual tabletop with friends, they have official content on Roll20 as well. But yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody where you could actually get this stuff from, and always support the publishers.
Yes, of course. And I've also like to add quickly, I've used this book, all my Mutants and Mastermind books, a lot, and no pages have fallen out. And it does have a little wear and tear because, tossing it in and out of a bag for like a decade or so. But nope, no pages have fallen out. Nothing's loose. Everything's where it should be. Still feels like a book. So really well put together book as well.
Good quality book.
Very
That's
good
what I like
quality
to hear.
book.
Well, all right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for checking out the Crithalla podcast, and thank you so much for checking out the first episode of Talking Tabletop. You can find us on all of our social medias. We have a Facebook and we have a Twitter. Facebook is kind of our main one, though. It's where you'll find the poll for Talking Tabletop once this season has concluded. And you can also find us for daily memes and stuff like that. We talk a lot if you ever want to message us or anything like that. If you guys could please leave us a rating on whatever app you're listening to us on, that would be awesome. Ratings are a big deal to us, so it'd be great if you can leave a rating or a star review, whatever it is.
Even if you hate us, let us know.
Yeah, just let us know.
I always like to know.
Let us know what's going on, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, just drop by, leave some feedback. We like Dan said, we genuinely appreciate it, and just because of how algorithms work across all these different platforms, it is how we are able to function, and it is how we are able to get some insight into what kind of content we're supposed to be or should be planning and releasing for you guys to enjoy.
Exactly. All right. Thank you guys so much for checking out the Crithalla podcast. My name is Old Skipflack, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. I'm Batman. He-Man. I'm Batman.
He-Man.